Cloud Imperium just pulled off something brilliant. They've figured out how to get useful feedback from their community without letting it turn into a Twitter flame war. While thousands of players spend their evenings writing novels on Spectrum about why master modes ruined their life, CIG has been quietly building a testing program that actually works. Most players don't even know this exists, but it's already shaping the game you're playing right now. The implications go way deeper than just better testing. This represents CIG finally admitting that crowdsourced feedback can be, well, let's just say challenging when you're trying to build a space sim, not a democracy. You know that feeling when you're in a group project and everyone has opinions about everything, even the stuff they've never actually done? That's been Star Citizen development for the past decade. You've probably been part of it yourself.
Ooh, you're odd.
Jumping into heated debates about flight mechanics while secretly knowing you spend most of your time hauling cargo in a freelancer. The thing is, CIG has been watching this chaos unfold for years. They've seen well-meaning players argue passionately about mining balance without ever touching a prospector. They've watched combat pilots write dissertations about industrial ship handling. And somewhere in Austin, a developer probably looked at this feedback and thought, there has to be a better way. Turns out there is. And it's going to change how you think about your role in Star Citizen's development. SGGT, the Star Citizen Gameplay and Game Testing Program, is basically CIG's way of saying, we love you all, but maybe the guy who's never left. Stanton shouldn't be designing exploration mechanics. It's focus group testing, but with the precision of a surgical strike instead of the chaos of a food fight. Think about it like this. You wouldn't ask a bunch of random people to taste test a new recipe and then be surprised when the vegetarians hate your brisket.
Right.
But that's essentially what traditional game testing does, throws everyone into the same pool and hopes the best ideas don't drown in the noise. SGGT flips this completely. They create specific groups, PvP pirates, space parents, solo PvE pilots, and test features with people who actually live in those gameplay loops. When they want feedback on quantum interdiction, they don't survey everyone. They grab actual pirates and actual haulers, lock them in separate rooms, and ask pointed questions. The genius isn't just in the targeting, it's in preventing the feedback from becoming a popularity contest where whoever brings the most friends wins. The dirty secret about avocado testing? It's been accidentally broken for years and everyone just pretended it was fine. The selection criteria sounds reasonable on paper. High playtime, good bug reports, active community participation. But when you think about what kind of player racks up thousands of hours in an unfinished space game, you start to see the problem. These aren't your average players, they're the hardcore enthusiasts who've been dogfighting in Arena Commander since 2014. Nothing wrong with that, except when you're testing cargo mechanics, and your feedback group consists mainly of people whose idea of hauling is moving ammunition between stations during Xenothreat. You end up with industrial features designed by committee, where the committee thinks industrial gameplay means combat support. This explains so much about Star Citizen's development quirks. Remember when they balanced mining by making it more complex instead of more fun? Or when cargo got improved in ways that made perfect sense on paper but felt terrible in practice? That's what happens when your feedback loop is dominated by players who understand systems theoretically but don't live with them daily. PTU 4.3.2 is a perfect example. You've got major industrial changes being evaluated primarily by players whose main gameplay loop involves shooting things. They can write excellent bug reports about why the cargo interface crashes, but they're not the ones who'll spend 3 hours optimizing a trade route only to lose everything to a server crash. SGGT acknowledges what everyone already knew but nobody wanted to say. Not all feedback is created equal, and expertise matters more than enthusiasm. You know what's funny? If you've made it this far into a video about Star Citizen testing methodology, you're probably exactly the kind of player CIG wants feedback from. Most people would have clicked away by now to watch someone blow up a javelin or something. But you're still here, thinking about game design and development processes. That's actually kind of beautiful, in a nerdy, obsessive way that only Star Citizen players would understand. Speaking of which, if you're finding this as fascinating as watching someone perfectly dock a whole C in 0G, maybe hit that subscribe button? No pressure, but you've already proven you have excellent taste in space game content. The psychology behind SGGT is actually brilliant, and it reveals something uncomfortable about how online communities work. Traditional testing assumes that good ideas naturally rise to the top in open discussion. But anyone who's spent 5 minutes on the internet knows that's not how it works. The ideas that rise to the top are the ones with the best marketing, the most passionate advocates, or the catchiest soundbites. You've seen this play out in every major Star Citizen controversy. Remember Master Modes?
Oh man. Oh God. Oh man.
The feedback CIG received wasn't really feedback. It was a series of coordinated campaigns by different content creators and their audiences. Reasonable middle ground positions got buried under waves of identical talking points. Players who disagreed but didn't want to argue with internet celebrities just stayed quiet. The result was feedback that looked like community consensus, but was actually just whoever could mobilize the most supporters. CIG was trying to read the room, but the room was full of people with megaphones drowning out everyone else. SGGT eliminates this completely. When they want to test mining laser efficiency, they don't post on Spectrum and hope miners respond. They look at their data, identify players who actually spend significant time mining, invite them to a private test, and get uncontaminated opinions. The NDA isn't just about preventing leaks, it's about preventing feedback from becoming a public relations battle. Players can give honest opinions without worrying about getting dogpiled by their org or becoming the main character on Reddit for a day. It's focus group testing, but for space nerds. You've probably lived through this exact scenario. You spent a weekend really diving into some aspect of Star Citizen, maybe salvage, maybe refining, maybe just trying to make medical gameplay work in a group setting. You figured out the pain points, the workarounds, the little tricks that make it actually enjoyable. So you wrote up your thoughts, detailed feedback, specific suggestions, the works, posted it on Spectrum with genuine hope that it might help improve the game. And then you watched it get buried under 50 replies arguing about whether salvage should be more profitable than bounty hunting. People who'd clearly never touched a vulture were debating the economics while completely ignoring your actual usability feedback. Your careful observations about beam responsiveness and cargo handling got lost in a flame war about game balance philosophy. Now, you probably felt that specific kind of frustration that comes from being ignored while people argue about things they don't understand. Maybe you stopped writing detailed feedback after that. Why bother, right? That experience taught you something valuable about the difference between feedback and noise. SGGT is basically CIG admitting they learned the same lesson. What makes SGGT particularly clever is its timing. This isn't just about better feedback, it's about CIG finally admitting they're building a different kind of game than they were 5 years ago. Early Star Citizen development needed broad community input because they were figuring out basic concepts. Should ships have fuel? How should quantum travel work? What does death of a spaceman actually mean? Those are philosophical questions that benefit from wide discussion. But now they're past that phase. The big systems exist, the core concepts are locked in. What they need now is precision tuning, and that requires expertise, not democracy. Your tactical advantage in this new world comes from depth, not breadth. Instead of trying to have opinions about everything, focus on becoming genuinely good at one or two activities. CIG's data can tell the difference between someone who mines occasionally and someone who's optimized their Prospector loadout for different asteroid types. If you're serious about mining, really understand it. Know the economics of different refineries, the optimal routes, the real pain points in the scanning process. If cargo is your thing, understand how different ship configurations affect profitability, how server performance impacts loading times, which routes actually work in practice versus theory. The players who get selected for SGGT won't be the ones with the most forum posts. They'll be the ones whose gameplay data tells a story of genuine expertise. CIG can see exactly how you play, what ships you use, how much time you spend in different activities. That data doesn't lie, and it can't be gamed by writing better forum posts. This shift makes specialized knowledge more valuable than general enthusiasm. If you're one of the few players who really understands multi-crew medical gameplay, that expertise might actually reach the developers now, instead of getting lost in arguments about whether medical gameplay should exist at all. The reaction to SGGT across different Star Citizen communities has been predictably chaotic. Reddit is split between players celebrating the end of forum warrior influence and others worried about losing transparency. Spectrum is having its usual measured, thoughtful discussions about whether this represents CIG abandoning the community or finally listening to it properly. But the most interesting responses come from players who specialize in specific gameplay loops. Dedicated miners seem cautiously optimistic. Serious cargo haulers are quietly relieved. PvP pilots are having more complex reactions because, let's be honest, they've been the most influential voices under the old system. The veteran players who remember when flight model discussions were actually productive instead of tribal warfare, they're just happy someone finally acknowledged that expertise and volume aren't the same thing. Positioning yourself for this new reality starts with authentic gameplay. SGGT selection is based on data, not social media presence.
No way!
If you want to influence mining development, actually mine. But more importantly, mine seriously. Understand the economics, learn the optimal strategies, experience the real pain points. When you do provide feedback, specificity matters more than passion. Instead of "this feels bad," explain exactly what feels wrong and why. CIG is looking for people who can articulate problems clearly and suggest realistic solutions, not just identify issues. Your influence now comes from expertise, not popularity. The old system rewarded people who could generate upvotes and rally supporters. The new system rewards deep understanding and clear communication. Most importantly, recognize that this change makes your specialized knowledge genuinely valuable. The game needs players who understand systems deeply, not just broadly. Your obsessive knowledge of refinery efficiency or multi-crew coordination isn't just useful for your own gameplay anymore. It might be exactly what shapes how those systems develop. Focus on becoming the kind of player whose opinion actually matters, because it's based on real experience, not theoretical understanding. 3 key takeaways. SGGT fixes the broken feedback loop that's plagued Star Citizen development. It prioritizes genuine expertise over social media influence, and it represents CIG maturing their development process as they approach 1.0. What's your main gameplay focus in Star Citizen? Are you building real expertise in that area, or just participating in general discussions? Drop a comment about your specialization. Understanding how this community breaks down between different gameplay styles is exactly what CIG is trying to figure out. Thanks for sticking with this deep dive into Star Citizen development politics. Understanding these changes gives you real insight into where the game is heading and how you can actually influence its development. The quiet specialists are about to become much more influential than the loud generalists. Your deep knowledge of specific gameplay loops isn't just valuable for your own experience anymore. It might be exactly what shapes the future of the game we're all waiting for.